got home and the homicide detective was in my living room.
2 men face charges tonight for murdering a man in a Raleigh hotel.
The housekeeper told the 911 operator that she opened the door and discovered the body on the floor covered in blood. Police say the victim is 25-year-old Stephen Hoyle.
They told me, I'm sorry to let you know, but your son Stephen has been murdered and he's no longer with us. And I remember dropping that pocketbook. You know, it's just so weird, the things that come to your mind.
This lady is incredible. Her story's incredible. She is the perfect example of living on Incline.
I actually first started with BB&T, the oldest bank in North Carolina.
Nice.
So BB&T had been in my life longer than my children.
A 4-year-old and a 1-year-old.
Yes.
And a single mom.
Yes. It was a big job, but we were the three Musketeers. So we were really tight, and we had so many good times.
Sacklers, black tar heroin, the opioid epidemic just blows up because of that legal prescribed drug being misused and used and dealt.
Stephen was diagnosed ADHD in kindergarten. And if you don't have him on some kind of medication,
that's it.
he is, you're going to get a call by 10 a.m. at work, at the bank. He said that the medication made him feel like he just didn't have his energy, that he wasn't himself. And it opened doors to places really quickly that may not have been opened had he not been on a stimulant. What he learned is that he could take a Roxy, and his anxiety and his grief and all that, he didn't feel any pain.
That's it.
People would say, we began to lose Michael when we lost Stephen. That's a direct quote from friends. He was 20, he was very young, and he was very shocked. At one time he said, I just don't even know if I want to be in a world like this.
This episode is sponsored by Recovery Alive, a Christ-centered recovery movement helping people rebuild their lives, restore relationships, and renew their faith. Through safe recovery homes, life-changing support groups, and personalized coaching, Recovery Alive provides hope and a clear path forward for those battling addiction, mental health challenges, or life's toughest seasons. I've seen firsthand how this community changes lives, and yours could be next. Learn more at recoveryalive.com.
Everybody, we are living on Incline. As always, hit the subscribe, like, follow, share, all that good stuff. And I have Freida MacDonald in the studio with me. This lady is incredible. Her story is incredible. She is the perfect example of living on Incline, and I can't wait for you to share your story with us and your journey, really, with us. It's been quite a journey, chapter after chapter after chapter, almost like a new book. Every couple of decades, you just transform and go higher and higher. It's amazing. But you're wearing purple today. Tell us about this purple that you're wearing.
I love purple. Purple's my favorite color. And in my website, it actually says I wear purple for overdose awareness. It actually has that. But I do love the color. I've loved the color since I was a teenager. But I love it even more.
Yeah.
Because it reminds me of my work. It reminds me of recovery. It reminds me of many people that I love. And I loved and lost, but also loved and have seen to be successful and do incredible things living on the Incline.
I love it. Look at her, man. You're a pro. So you have a website. Well, let's get that out of the way. Let's tell the people about your website. How do they find you?
I would love to share about that. So I had one that was www.nohopenorthcarolina.com for the last several years. And I just went through my youngest son's, as I call it, angelversary, 10 years since I lost him. That's a whole decade. And I wanted to really roll out something special to honor him. And I really did think it through. And I decided a new, fresh website at this stage might be just a way to say it's been 10 years and I want a new look. And that just came out on his 10th, the very week of his 10th angelversary, February 14th, 2026. So it's extremely new. And now it's www.northcarolina, or excuse me, No Hope NC instead of the whole North Carolina. So it's
No Hope NC. And No Hope is KNOW.
Yes,
HopeNC.com.
that's it.
Fantastic. And so you've already mentioned your son. We're going to spend some time talking about both of the sons that you've lost, and thank you for having the courage to talk about that. Before this started, I said, whatever you're comfortable sharing, and I loved your answer. You said, man, I feel like this is my mission to share their stories and your story of working through their loss. You've been through a lot in your life. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Raleigh.
Did you really?
So I'm really back at home. I went away. My children were born in New Bern.
Okay.
I was there for 10 years. And right after they were born, pretty much, my son was 1 and my other son was 4.
Two kids?
2 kids,
Okay.
2 boys. I moved from New Bern back to Raleigh.
Okay.
And I've been in the Raleigh-Cary area ever since.
What brought you to New Bern, which is beautiful down there, by the way?
Their father was from New Bern.
Okay.
I met him at the beach.
Okay.
And we got married and decided to settle in his hometown. And so I had my children there. And then in 1992, I went through a divorce and I had very, very young children, 4 and not even 1.
Oh, boy.
And so I came back home because my parents were still living in Raleigh. So
Okay.
I had my own place, but I wanted to be near
You're
my
close
family.
to your family.
Yes.
A 4-year-old and a 1-year-old.
Yes.
And a single mom.
Yes. And
Tough.
it was a big job, but we were the 3 Musketeers. So we were really tight and we had so many good times. And I'm so grateful for all those years that they were 4 years apart and they died 4 years apart. So at 24.
Tell me about the boys, 4 and 1. What?
Yes.
Oldest one's name?
Stevens. And I named Stephen after my oldest brother. His name was Stephen Curtis Hoyle. And his brother was born 4 years later, Michael Neal Hoyle. And Stephen was wide open. He was absolutely, and he would be happy for me to tell you this. He was ADHD. He said it made him who he was.
Okay, he embraced.
He embraced it.
Okay, good.
He was wide open,
Yeah.
and he. I always knew because he didn't sleep that well at night. He kept me very busy jumping from the time he was born, for his whole life, really.
Yeah.
And I always knew that he had more energy and more going on in that head of his than most people that I dealt with. Oh. And it was no real surprise when his kindergarten teacher said, "You really need to talk about him with the doctor because he cannot stay in his seat at school."
Oh,
and he gets so excited and anxious, and he's a sweet kid, but he is wide open. So that was Stephen.
That was Stephen. Then Michael was 4 years younger.
He was 4 years younger.
What was he like?
He was a lot calmer than his brother. He was more laid back. It was a pretty interesting combination. He really looked up to his brother. He did not really remember, because he was so young when I went through my divorce, that he didn't really remember living with his dad.
Okay.
So Stephen became not only his older brother, but Stephen became a mentor.
I got you.
He really looked up to him. That 3 years, 9 months, almost 4 years was just enough that he saw him as knowing everything.
Yeah.
He was grown.
How'd they get along?
Most of the time, they were
They're brothers, though, right? Yeah, come on.
Most of the time, very respectful, really, really loved each other. You knew they had each other's back because if somebody else said something about it, they were all in.
They could say something to each other, but you can't say nothing
right.
to your
But
brother. Yeah.
but absolutely, they had the brother thing where they just really would, go at it from time to time.
So I got daughters. I got 4 daughters, and I've always been told, like, girls when they fight, it's more this. Guys, boys, when they fight, it gets physical.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is very true.
Yeah. But they're ramrodding around the house, and you're trying to handle stuff. And you're in the banking industry, so you're. How long had you been doing?
A long time.
Yeah.
I actually first started with BB&T, the oldest bank in North Carolina. At the time, it's not here now.
Truist.
Truist, right? But I started with
sponsored by Truist.
I started with them in New Bern in 1984. So my son was born in 1987. So BB&T had been in my life longer than my children. So it was just a career.
Yeah.
I had been doing it for many, many
You
years.
enjoy it?
I did enjoy it. It was everything I knew. I went to school in business. I just I just found it very interesting, and I was in downtown New Bern, and I loved the people. I loved who I worked with. It was
That's everything, isn't it?
yeah, it felt like family.
Oh.
It really did. And it was a small town.
Yeah.
I was from Raleigh, but being there was different. And so you could go to the drugstore or the grocery store and you could see your boss.
Yep.
And so we really connected. And I felt like it was not just work. It was just it was my life. I absolutely loved going to work.
You transferred up to Raleigh to be around your folks.
Yes.
And how old are the kids at that point?
That 4 and 1.
4 and 1 at that point in time.
Yeah.
And you're still working for BB&T up there?
Yes, they helped me transfer.
Oh, that's
because they
great.
actually knew what I was going through.
Okay.
And
Wow.
they really did help me.
Wow. That's
I
kind of
was-
rare, huh?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'll never forget it. A wonderful man. He's retired now, but he did really well with BB&T. Ricky Brown, he was my boss down in New Bern, and he was just like, "We'll do whatever we can." And
Sure.
my file ended up on somebody's desk in Raleigh, and they called me, and I came for an interview, got a job, sold my house, bought another house, and I mean, they helped me go through that transition.
But I'm sure at that time it was pretty overwhelming. It was a lot.
It was,
Yeah.
because I was a brand new mom.
Yeah.
My youngest one was, he was not even 1. So yeah, it was, I was scared. I was
Yeah.
scared of what it was going to be like to be a single mom.
I just want to set it up that like it when you say 3 Musketeers, you know, the counseling I do, a lot of times when divorce happens, that group that's left over, mom and some kids, can just get so close. It's so close.
Yes.
And it sounds like
very
it was just the 3 of you, and I'm sure that connection was so strong. And now they're growing up, and you're a single mom. They're in Raleigh. School's a little challenging for your oldest. As they're starting to kind of grow up, get older, taking them to the doctor, ADHD comes out.
Yes.
Were you able to kind of manage that through medication?
The absolutely great question.
Yeah.
I would do things differently if I was doing it.
Okay.
But it's hindsight, right? You
Well, you don't know what you don't know.
don't know what you
Yeah.
don't know. I didn't really know about ADHD. I just knew that Stephen was wide open.
Sure.
And so they did the whole, you need to go to the doctor, you need to get him evaluated.
Right.
And it's like a score, and it comes back with these higher numbers if you're ADHD. And so I had to fill something out, the doctor had to fill something out, and it came back that he was absolutely, I mean, on the score as far as paperwork goes,
No doubt. Leave no doubt.
doubt that he is ADHD. And if you don't have him on some kind of
Okay,
medication,
that's it.
he is, you're going to get a call by 10 a.m. at work, at the
Wow.
bank, and they're going to say, he's acting out. True. That really,
kind of
really
pressure.
was the way it was.
Wow.
And at that time, there wasn't time release. And
Mhm.
so everybody knew who was dealing with ADHD because there were lines at the office of kids that had to
Taking
go at
medication.
lunchtime because they'd take it in the morning. The
Oh.
4-hour window was over. They had to go in.
Wow.
Hadn't thought about that in a long time, but
Kind of stigmatizing in a
it
way,
was
huh?
I think it
Mhm.
was
Sure.
for Stephen. I
Yeah.
think, because he would say, I feel like that everybody thinks that I'm so different.
Right.
And what the medication was, he was born in 1987, so we're talking about, a lot of years ago now. But he said that the medication made him feel like he just didn't have his energy, that he wasn't himself. It made him feel, almost
Even at
like,
that young age.
yeah, he would tell
Yeah.
me that, and he just didn't like it. But if he didn't take it, they knew immediately
Yeah.
because he was back to wide
Back to
open
Stephen,
Stephen.
though.
But
Yeah.
that was Stephen. That
Right.
is who he was.
Mhm.
He really
But
was.
the answer back then was stimulants. Just load them up with Ritalin or whatever.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's how we solve this. And you better do it, or it's almost child abuse.
And now when I talk to my clients, I'm jumping way ahead.
Mhm.
But now when I talk to them and I go over, mental health. What have you been diagnosed
Sure.
for? And they say ADHD. They say, it's like my phone calls from the helpline, my counseling, all of that. As I'm writing it down, I always remember, I always think back of what a game changer that
Yeah.
was. What a,
Yeah.
it was a difficult
Huge.
process.
Right.
It was a difficult process for my son. And it is a stimulant.
Yeah.
So if you're not ADHD and somebody knows you're standing in line, and true story from my own life, but they know you're standing in line, they know that you have access to Ritalin.
Right.
And they want Ritalin if they want a stimulant.
Right.
And so they come up to you, and this is when you get into middle school. This doesn't necessarily, well, I don't know. It could even be.
Could happen in
it
grade
could
school.
happen.
Sure.
It could.
Yeah.
But I do know it happened with my son. And
Wow.
I do. Because he told me, he shared with me. He said, his person came up to him and said, I'll give you this joint.
Wow.
Or if you can get me
In middle school.
in middle schools. And it opened doors to places really quickly that may not have been opened had he not been on a stimulant.
Let's pause for a second because that's so huge. I don't know that I've thought about that could be happening inside of a school where they know they're getting a stimulant. I want that. I'll trade you some weed for that.
Yeah.
You and I talked about Dreamland and how both of us had same communities. He opened up for me like a world that I never even knew existed when he talked about the opioid epidemic and how this perfect storm came together of the pain scale that the VA released and that the only subjective piece of the pain scale, which was what's your pain tolerance, or
1 to 10.
yeah, or of the vitals. Yeah, the only subjective part of the vital check, blood pressure and all that stuff. But those are things you could measure.
Mm-hmm.
But pain scale, like I'm a 10 every time just so I can get what I need, right? And and of course the Sacklers, black tar heroin, but that piece that says like this is prescribed medication that the doctor is being told you have to give this to your client.
Mm-hmm.
If they're a high level on the pain scale and you don't give them opioids, if you don't give them OxyContin, then you could almost be sued for malpractice.
Right.
And so it's that same pressure. It feels just like all that pressure to go prescribe, and then the opioid epidemic just blows up because
Absolutely.
of that legal prescribed drug being misused and used and dealt. And so it just seems like there's a problem with
Yes.
prescription medication.
Yes.
So I never thought about that before. And so Stephen is experiencing very early on. That's got to be confusing too.
Kindergarten.
Well, the
when
drug
it
dealing,
started.
middle school drug dealing.
And then that. Yeah.
Which is like, it'd be a little confusing to go like, my doctor prescribed this to me, but I can't use it for other purposes. That's just, yeah, I never
Yeah.
thought about that before.
Yeah. And for me too, having two boys,
Mhm.
Stephen was diagnosed ADHD
Yeah.
in kindergarten. In second grade, Michael was diagnosed ADD, not ADHD, but ADD.
Okay.
And the medicines had already shifted. I mean, the prescription meds change as you go along, learn more, things change. Doctors, feel like other things are better. So when it came time for Michael, the new prescribed wasn't the Ritalin anymore. It was Adderall. So it was a stimulant,
Sure.
still a stimulant, but it was a new thing. And I'll never forget when Michael first took his first Adderall. We were out of town for the weekend, and he felt so sick. And I remember thinking back on that now because I wanted to see how it worked for him before he went to school. And I remember thinking about that, thinking maybe that was a sign that I should have just said, I don't want to do that. But I did not want to put him at a disadvantage in school. And it's
Pressure. More pressure.
It was more pressure. So I had two sons, and I remember crying when they told me Michael was ADD. I was like, oh my gosh, I've been through this ADHD thing with Stephen, and it's been challenging. And now Michael, and I just remember I was very emotional.
Well, these are all the professionals, the school, the doctors, they're all telling you this is what you need to do. And so I hear what you're saying is like, maybe if I could hindsight, do things differently. But at the time, it's just, if you don't do those things, you're a bad mom.
Yeah. And it was the popular, it seemed like,
All right.
with those lines at school, the popular choice. Okay, it's
Right.
better for them to be able to focus, get their homework done,
Sure.
pass that exam, do the things that they need to do to be successful,
Yeah.
than it is to say, question it.
Yeah, let me think about
Let me
this a little
think
bit.
about this.
Mhm.
And honestly, I did get that phone call, especially with Stephen, because of the hyper component. Michael
Right.
was more laid back,
Mhm.
so I didn't have those.
But had a hard
phone
time
calls,
focusing.
But had a hard time focusing.
So you're doing this all by yourself.
Yeah, and being a single mom is challenging.
Oh my goodness.
It's and I've thought you never go into having children and a family thinking that that's going to be
Right.
how it's going to turn out.
No way.
You don't. You go into it
Yeah.
fully. You're going to be doing this with
Right.
your partner. You're going to be handling these kinds of things together. So that was a challenge in itself.
So
trying
hard.
to yes.
So now middle school's happening. It sounds like if Steven is trading his stimulant for marijuana, then he's starting to smoke some weed. He's starting to get involved with some.
And that was the case.
Yeah.
That was the case.
Yes. So how early did that start, do you think?
So middle school, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. I think it was 7th grade. I think it was the second year in middle school that when that first started happening.
You know this because he told you later? Or did
Later he told me.
Okay.
Later he told me.
Mhm.
But I did start, even in middle school, I did start seeing some challenges with Stephen.
Some behavior?
Some behavior challenges. Our relationship was actually always good.
Yeah.
He loved his mama,
Sure.
and he, like I said, always would have my back.
Yep.
Always. Don't talk funny to my
Yeah.
mama,
Yeah. He's kind of the man of the house,
yeah,
or at least he thought he
At
was.
least he thought he
Yeah,
was.
that's right.
Yes, absolutely. But I did see behavioral changes in friends, changes in what he wanted to do. He had been very, very committed. He did all the years. We were really involved with Cub Scouts, and we went through all of the Cub Scouts. And then during that time, you go over into Boy Scouts, and he bridged over and all of that. But then he started losing interest in continuing on with that. And it had always been a really big thing with him. I mean, we went every Wednesday night over a little church in Cary.
He wanted to be.
And he wanted to be
Yeah.
there. It was his choice to start. And we always called his younger brother, who had to go with us to the meetings. I was like a co-leader of his Cub Scouts, but we always called him our mascot.
Oh, okay.
Even before he
Yeah.
did it himself. But those things that we did that were routine, that were weekly, those things were, and there were many besides Cub Scouts, but the activities that we did that he thoroughly enjoyed, not so much anymore by the time the whole shift of middle school came along.
Yeah. So you're kind of seeing some behavioral challenges. I don't know if the school's calling, or you're having, these new friends coming over, or he's disappearing, or maybe all of the above is happening. What's going on with his younger brother at that time? Because he's looking up to him.
Watching.
Right, he's
watching
watching him.
everything.
Yeah.
And he's questioning everything. And he also, at 2nd grade, been diagnosed ADD, and he was feeling some kind of way about himself. And he actually could really do well in school, but it was almost like his focus would get off, and he would maybe say something to a neighbor, in the classroom, and get in trouble for that. So it was that attention or lack of, being able, focusing on everything,
Right.
instead of
One thing.
one thing. And I learned that I needed to really learn more about ADD and ADHD.
That's your nature, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
you're going to deep dive and start learning about this stuff and research.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I did. I went and took a class. A doctor that was
You
ADHD
took a
actually
class?
taught it. Yeah, I mean, they
Of course
had
you
one
did.
off.
Sure.
They had
Yeah,
one off.
absolutely.
And what really I still remember, John, to this day about that really, really made me think about how hard it would be to be a kid with ADD or ADHD is that the doctor had us read a paragraph as adults in a classroom that had the like for dyslexia or whatever, it had the letters changed, but it had things written in a way that a person that's mind is going too fast or not able to really focus in on it, the way they would see it.
Like
And
the ADD or ADHD mind.
yes, would see that paragraph. And we had to read it in front of all of the other adults in the room.
That's good.
And it was challenging to read it. And I felt I didn't have control over what
Insecure,
was coming out
yeah,
of my
that's
mouth. I
tough.
felt insecure, and I was an adult, and I felt
Effective
insecure.
strategy. Yeah,
Yes,
that's good.
it was very effective.
Oh.
And that was one thing I learned from that class. Another thing I learned is he said, stop telling your children to put on their socks and shoes. Just tell them, put on your socks. And when they get their socks on, say, put on your shoes. I had never thought about that. And he was using that as an example of break it down. Don't put so much in there that they're overwhelmed with all of these instructions you're giving them.
So just, again, we're going to shoot forward, but like as a substance use counselor, you see how dual diagnosis is.
Yes.
That comorbidity of going like this thing, ADD, ADHD, how it can contribute to some other things to just cope, just to deal with it. Yeah. And so you're able to empathize and say, man, this is harder than I thought it was for these guys. And what I'm like, hey man, put your socks and shoes on. Like that could be, any of us would be like, all right, let's put our socks and shoes on. That's a huge challenge. And then when that challenge hits you and you don't feel like you're successful, I mean, all of that, what does that lead to? Insecurity, feelings of inadequacy, not good enough or not smart enough, all that, not worthy, which I think is at the bottom of all of it. The root of every hurt, habit, and hang up is that feeling that I just don't have value or worth. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And he said that's already started with both of them.
Yes. Yes.
So high school hit. Steven's heading into high school. Where are we at with high school?
Yeah. Things were getting, with Stephen, things were getting pretty challenging. For Stephen. A lot of his friends, the choices of the people that he got really connected with, I feel like that in some ways he felt less than because of the ADHD, because of that diagnosis, because of having trouble with getting good grades in school, having trouble with all of those things. And so he overcompensated it with being cool. So he started, and he was cool. He really was cool, but he started having friends that didn't necessarily have his best interests at heart, didn't necessarily have be the best of Stephen.
Yeah. I think that cool thing too is kind of like when you have choices. Either this thing that I'm challenged with is going to matter to me, and if it matters to me, then I have to work through it. I have to like grapple with it. And when I'm grappling with it, I'm going to fail. But having this other side where you just go, I don't care, even though you care a lot.
Yes.
If I just say I don't care, then things just all of a sudden are really easy. Well, what's the matter with your grades? I just don't care.
Yeah.
Right? Like that. Like,
yes. And that
doesn't
happens
matter.
all the time.
Right. Instead of going like, what they're really saying is I really care, but it's just too much, too hard. But I don't want to act like it's hard. I'm just going to be like, right. That's just the easier way. A lot of high schoolers, I think a lot of kids they'll take that tack because it's just too hard to care.
Yes.
Does that sound like?
It does. And I think I have to throw in there, he loved his mom, but I believe every child, even though life doesn't always afford it, every child really needs a mom and a dad.
Yeah.
And they really do need that. It's really, really hard for one woman, not to make any excuses for myself at all, but it's really, really hard for one woman to be everything.
I'm glad you're
to
saying
two
that.
sons.
Because that's giving yourself some grace. It's not making excuses. It's an explanation. You're sharing like, this is what happened. It's not the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah. And this just popped in my head, so I have to share it. I was at the bus stop one morning with Michael, and this is profound to me, and I'll never forget it. He said, Mom, we were just waiting for the bus in the car. It was cold. He said, Mom, you're a really good mom, and I really appreciate everything that you do for me, but it's too bad that you don't have a line right here in the middle of your face, and you could be dad here and mom here. And he was young, and I was looking at him as he said that, and I was like, Mike, that is powerful.
Wow.
That is so powerful. And it must have been powerful to me
Yeah.
because I'm telling you about it. I don't talk about that every day,
Yeah.
but I'm telling you about it all these years later because I could not be that.
Right. And they need
They
need
they
a
need
dad.
they need a dad. They need and they had a dad, but he did not live in the same town.
Right.
He was on call a lot. He wasn't able to be there very often. He was very, very busy. And so I don't want to discredit him in any way.
It was just not
But
ideal.
it was not ideal.
Not ideal.
It was not ideal.
And they told you it's not ideal at a very young age.
At a very young age. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's, I think, the challenge of ADHD, ADD, single mom. I
Right.
have to put that in there.
For sure.
It's just reality.
True.
It's just true.
Yeah.
And just me not being able to, I had to work.
Mhm.
I absolutely had to work. Not that I didn't love my work, but I had a lot of hours, a lot of things to take care of, a lot of things to do. And so I was trying to balance being there
Yeah.
at the Cub Scouts, soccer, flag football, and work.
Yeah. I've gotten to know you a little bit. I don't know you this well, and I'm going to poke just a teeny bit. And so I work a lot with women, generally women who are struggling with codependency, who've trying to love their son or husband or somebody through difficult, maybe an addiction situation or other trouble that they might be having. And a lot of times moms have this guilt if they're single moms, where I've already put my child, even if it wasn't you, we or me, I've already put my child through so much already. They've had to deal with divorce. Now they have ADD, ADHD. And so a lot of times moms have a hard time then pushing their kids,
Yes.
disciplining them, doing things that hurt to actually help them, like not allowing them to have certain things. So I don't know if you experienced any of that. It's just such a tough situation not to kind of get into that space where like they've already gone through so much. I don't want to
That's so true.
be too hard on my kids when sometimes that's an enabling behavior. I don't know did you experience that at all?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And in the hindsight, in the looking
Sure.
back, I tried to overcompensate. I tried to make sure that they were involved in it.
Yeah.
That's why I brought up the Cub Scouts.
Right.
It was important to me. Stephen wanted to do it. It was his
Right.
idea, but it was important to me to make time to do that. It was important to me to be at those soccer practices. It was important to me when they had the day where moms could come in to the school, right, to be there. So those are all good things, and all moms
Sure.
want to do those, of course. But I think I overextended myself. I think I went really, really hard because I felt like that they had been so disadvantaged by not having their dad there, by not having the experience of just the full rounded family that I had anticipated for them when they were born.
Yeah. So that's hard on you. You're probably stretched so thin that you're see-through, and the kids are just expecting now that you have to do all those things.
Yes.
Right? Now they're like, well, that's what you're supposed to do. And they might get a little upset if you're like, I can't, that's just too much. But that's what you've built that expectation, super mom. And if you can't fulfill that, you feel horrible. They're maybe a little bratty. You know?
Yes, because they you get used to it.
Right.
You get used to
That's
it.
what mom's supposed
And,
to do. Yeah, that's
and
right.
she's there for us.
Right.
She is the person.
So you're feeling
there.
all that pressure that you've just got to be super mom all the time. Now your son's starting to kind of unravel a little bit. It's just, that's what I think builds up that responsibility. Like I feel so responsible for what's happening right now. And of course, as a mom, you want to fix it for all kinds of reasons. But that pressure, like, is this on me? Is this, I've had a couple of people in here who've gone through similar things that you've gone through, loss of sons and daughters, and they'll say like, I just felt like this is on me. This is my fault in a way, And so as Stephen is starting to kind of unravel, spiral a bit, was that a part of the struggle for you, is feeling that responsibility?
Yeah, I mean, I just felt so bad that with the opportunities that I felt were out there.
Right.
And the way that I wanted things to go for him, that they were unraveling. And I had people tell me that I talked to, good friends, good support system, good people say, don't forget to keep looking at Michael because you're spending a lot of time
Oh, well,
looking at things unraveling with Stephen.
because he's just so,
Because
it's
he's
just so big. It like these
Yeah.
explosions.
Yes. And Michael at that point was pretty laid back and he was, still kind of doing his thing. Don't forget, because if he sees all of the attention going over there, and that stuck with me. So I was still trying to further,
Oh,
let's make sure Mike gets to that birthday party Saturday. Let's
jeez, Freida.
it was a lot. It was.
And
I
you're
look back
full-time
at it.
working and you're,
Yeah.
gee whiz.
Yeah, I was always busy. And I want to give my parents credit. My father's no longer with us, but my father was a great support system. Great, great man. Lost him in 2020. He was there for me and he loved my boys.
Sure.
And he really was actively
That's huge.
engaged.
Grandparents are so huge.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so in a lot of ways, Stephen actually said one time they lived on a farm after my dad retired and went back to Oxford. It's important for this reason. Lots of land, lots of place to run around, white fences to be washed, all this kind of stuff. And Stephen said that the summer that he stayed, because he went out there because I was having trouble handling everything.
Yeah.
The summer that he stayed out there with his grandfather was one of the best times of his entire life. And those are his words.
Wow.
So I did have help. I did.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a good memory.
That
It's
is
a
a
good memory.
So, high school, how bad did things get with Stephen and through high school?
Things got pretty bad. He ended up not finishing. We were in Cary. He ended up not finishing at Cary High, and he ended up going and getting his GED,
Okay.
and starting to work.
Okay.
And I was proud of him because he was a hard worker.
Yeah.
He did jump into work. He did construction and all of that. He felt like at that time that he would just go nuts behind a desk. He just had to be moving.
Outside. Well, yeah.
Outside, had to be moving, had to be doing things. And his boss told me during those years that he was working with him, the final boss that he actually worked with that talked to me when he passed away, he said he was an extremely hard worker.
Yeah.
He said we had a lot of things to pick up one day and we were taking them one at a time. And I looked and Stephen had a whole stack of them like over his head going in with them. And I was like, oh my gosh, that guy is not afraid of work.
Right.
So I was proud of him.
Yeah.
Because he did give those things a lot of energy.
Yeah, and I think sometimes, I remember watching a TED Talk on it, like ADHD sometimes is diagnosed in somebody who is like, they're just, school's not necessarily going to be their thing, right? That maybe they're just designed to be more active, to be in the trades, to be like, and so you try to wedge them into this academic world where they're like, I'm just not built that way. I need to move, man. I need to dance or run or work or whatever. And so saying, well, that's a problem. It's probably in one ways, maybe in a lot of ways, it was Stephen's strength, is that he was just like, go, I gotta go.
Yes. He was wide open. And it all leads into, he actually died from gunshot. He was shot and killed. But if you look at what happened with the final hour of his life, if you really look at it, it's his ADHD showed up big time because he was being robbed. And most people, I really think he'd be cool with me saying this. Most people would say, take it.
Yeah.
Right. And Stephen's exact words came out in court were, you really don't think I'm going to let you walk out of here with my money, do you? And he jumped him. And so they were fighting.
Oh, my goodness.
And he had a gun. And it ended up costing him his life. But I always said, because the person that shot him didn't know him at all. But I always said if that person that shot him had really knew him, he'd have known he was the wrong person to rob. Because he didn't process, he's got a gun, he's might shoot me. He just did what he always did. He was always on go.
Yeah.
He was always that way.
So how old was he when
he was 24?
Yeah.
He was 24. Yeah. And he was in an extended stay in Raleigh.
Okay.
And he was working a job with the same boss I was just talking about, and they were in Wake Forest, and he had found on Craigslist a truck that he wanted to buy in Fayetteville, and he had gotten the cash money to go buy that truck, and it wasn't a very expensive truck. I believe, if memory serves, it was $2,100, but it was just a work truck, something he was going to use to haul all those things around that they used. And he was going to do that, and the man that ultimately shot him learned that he had that cash money from someone that did know Stephen, that had been over at the extended stay the night before. And he said he's got cash and he's by himself. He's staying there. And so it was kind of set up that they would go over there. And they went over there at 6 o'clock in the morning. On a Thursday morning. I was at work that day, so I didn't know about it until the end of the day. But they went over there, and the one that had been there the night before said that he had forgotten something. I believe it was a cell phone, but that part wasn't real clear in court. Doesn't matter. So Stephen let them in. He wasn't prepared for anything because he was in black socks, boxers, and a wife beater. I mean, he was not prepared for the day at all. He just got out of bed, and he let the person he knew in, and then the other person rushed in that he didn't know that had the gun, and he just told him he wanted his money. So it was a robbery that went really, really wrong. And Stephen pointed to the book bag, and which is where the money was, and he took it, and he was going to leave. He was going to leave, but that's when Stephen made his comment, "You don't really think I would let you just walk out of here with my money, do you?" And I know he didn't think it through. I knew him so well, and he was all about, you don't get disrespected. He would say that all the time.
How did you find out?
When I was at work, 29th floor, BB&T, downtown Raleigh, I got a phone call from my husband. I'm remarried. Got remarried when they were 18 and 14.
Okay.
So I was single mom until almost 14 years.
Yeah.
I got a phone call, and they couldn't give me any information. They just said I needed to come home. And so I knew, John, I knew it wasn't going to be good. I knew it was going to be about one of my boys. I didn't know which boy. I didn't know what was going on, but I just knew from the tone and everything that it was serious. I knew it was. And I thought maybe it was getting arrested. You can't really, but it was something bad.
You knew it.
I knew it was something bad. And so I got home, and the homicide detective was in my living room. And so I came in, and I remember I was carrying a pocketbook. It's funny the things you remember that Stephen gave me. It was a pocketbook he had gave me as a gift. And I was carrying that, and as they told me, I'm sorry to let you know, but your son Stephen has been murdered, and he's no longer with us. And I remember dropping that pocketbook. It's just so weird, the things that come to your mind.
And so drilled in memory.
Yeah, drilled in, just dropping that purse on the floor and sitting down. And the horrible thing about homicide, violent homicide particularly, is what I'm talking about. The horrible thing about it is that they aren't often at liberty to tell you very many details. And as a mom, you want to know everything. What happened to my boy, right? Even today, it's like, I wanted to know what happened. And I was having all of these visuals of what could have happened to him, really bad stuff. And they just said, we're not at liberty to tell you. I said, well, where is he? And they said he's at the medical examiner's office. It was just bits, pieces of, where we were. And he ended up giving me his card and saying, we're investigating it. We have some pretty good leads. Well, but it was business. He was kind enough,
right,
but he couldn't tell me.
Yeah.
And I didn't know until I got the death certificate, which just simply read, because I went to the funeral home, it simply read that he was shot in the shoulder. And then I had 2 months of thinking he was shot in the shoulder, he couldn't call me, he was laying on the floor, because the cleaning lady, when they came in that morning, they found him. So I had a lot of trauma with just the whole thing.
You have to fill in the blank.
I had to fill in the blanks, and I didn't really know. But I kept calling for the autopsy, and I learned a lot in the process, and I think I've helped some people with homicide since.
Because it is so vague and just like
Yeah.
you have to advocate to get anywhere. Yeah.
You really do. But anyway, on the autopsy, it said that he was shot once in the shoulder, went through his arm, and then it re-entered his body. And so, not to be overly graphic, but it made me process what happened in a whole different way. It wasn't just getting shot in the shoulder and bleeding out on the floor. It was literally a very fatal shot. And then on the way out the door, he was laying on the floor and they shot him in the back. So my son didn't suffer in the way that I
I've been thinking about
been
it for
thinking about it for 2 months. 2 months it took me to get that. Now it's even longer. I mean, a good friend of mine, DA, Lauren Freeman, I consider her a dear friend. She worked with me at the NCVAN, North Carolina Victims Assistance Network, and talked with me about the backlog and all the things that go on with homicide. And I began to understand it. But it is not a road that you understand at all, unless you work in the criminal justice system. It is not a road that you understand until you get thrown into it. So you're grieving and processing and learning.
You can't grieve, right? Not fully,
Not
because you don't know what
fully.
happened, and then you learn new information.
Yeah, and it comes out in pieces. And when they told me, they being the homicide detective as well as the assistant DA that was working his case, when they told me what was going on in detail about court, that was in June, and he died January 26, 2012. So there was a lot of gap between just having to sit down in the courthouse to talk about this and where we're going with this. But I did learn within 24 hours who shot him, because they had video from the extended stay. I mean, they could see him. They were on the camera. It wasn't planned out. I mean, it was going to be a robbery. It wasn't going to be a murder, and it just
went bad.
It went bad. It went bad.
Out of this, and I'd love to hear more about your process, but out of this, you said, kind of get to a place where you're like, I want to help other people with what I experienced here. It just, the system throws you into this
Oh, it was heavy.
washing machine of insanity where you can't figure out, what happened. You're trying to process this horrible event, but at the same time you can't process it because you don't know exactly what happened. So how did you get involved with helping other victims? Like, when did that?
I didn't know NCVAN existed. Great question. Thank you for asking. I didn't know that they existed. Didn't know anything about them. Started calling around, looking around. I wanted to get involved. I wanted to learn. I wanted to be connected.
That's
and
you.
and I couldn't find anything, John. I couldn't.
Right.
But then I found out on September 25th of that year. So we are talking about 9 months later. I was Googling, and it was September 25th is Remembrance Day for murder victims. I didn't know. I didn't have a clue. I had never even heard of that day.
Yeah.
But that's every year in the whole country, September 25th.
Wow.
So I saw it, and I saw that there was a basement in Durham at a church, and they were having an event. And so I texted my husband, and I said, I'm not going to be home.
I'm going to this thing.
To this thing.
I'm going to the basement
right?
of this church.
I'm going to the basement of this church. So here we are in Raleigh, where we have plenty of homicide,
Right.
but I couldn't find anything here, right? So I went to Durham, and Durham, their homicide is talked about more on the media and all of that. I'm not, that's too much to get into.
Yeah, exactly.
But
right.
I ended up in this basement of this church in Durham, and this wonderful woman came up to me, and her son was shot and killed in Durham a number of years prior to the event. And she was a little bit older than me. She was very, very comforting to me. And she asked me why I was there, and I told her, and I felt like she was like my new best friend.
Oh, right there.
Right there on the
yeah.
spot. Mina Hampton. She has passed since, and she passed in her 90s. She spent her entire life helping people with something called Parents of Murdered Children's Durham chapter. All kinds of people from all walks of life that had their loved ones taken by violence. She helped, and she helped me. She helped me.
How important is that?
That is so important. That is so.
You didn't probably even know until
She
you
lived
met
on
her.
the incline, John.
Yeah.
For sure.
She inspired you.
She inspired me. I saw how much she did, how much she loved, how many people she had helped, all because she lost her Tommy to gun violence, and she wanted to give back. She wanted to do.
So you're like seeing how in pretty short time how much support means to people, and you get involved with that. You're seeing how like maybe in one small area how this horrible event can possibly be a way for you to help other people.
Yes.
Because you're watching somebody else
Right.
do that.
And why does Durham have something and Raleigh doesn't? This
Yeah.
was what I was thinking.
Okay.
Because I know things are going on in Raleigh.
Right.
My son just got killed in Raleigh. And it changed me.
Yeah.
That was like one of the chapters in my last, 14 years that really, really changed me.
A light bulb kind of went on there.
Michael was still with me. Michael was beginning to struggle, and that's grief. Grief is a monster.
It is a monster.
And he was just at 20.
You don't know what to do with it.
He was just at 20, and he just lost his mentor, his brother, his person.
Now, in high school, was he kind of on that same track as far as like getting into some trouble, starting to use that kind of stuff?
He was on the track of smoking weed.
Okay.
For sure. No question about it. Introduced in much the same way as his brother, Adderall.
Is that right?
Yes, that's the story. And he had no reason not to talk to me about it.
No, that's unreal.
I mean, he was very young.
Yeah.
Very young. But he wasn't poly substance. He wasn't into anything else. It was weed.
Smoking weed.
He was smoking weed. Neither one of them, alcohol was a thing.
Did he get through high school? Did he graduate?
He actually also got his GED.
Okay.
Both of my sons got their GED. Both of them had struggles with high school.
Yeah.
On a lot of levels. But I want to circle back just for a second about there is something in Raleigh for homicide, so I don't want to miss that. Homicide, since 1984, Dick Adams started what's called the North Carolina Victims Assistance Network after the murder of his child. And it is here. But knowing it is here and it being here are two different things.
So Durham had a chapter.
They had a Parents of Murdered Children chapter.
Okay, but
that's all over the country.
In Raleigh, you didn't think anything existed, but something had.
But something did exist, but I didn't know about it.
Couldn't find it,
And that's a big part of my mission, because I still am heavily involved with NC Van. I actually work for them too.
Wonderful. Of course you
I work for them doing homicide support groups and opioid loss support groups, because my two worlds collided.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. But anyway, I was walking downtown Raleigh, working at BB&T. I walked every day at lunch. I need to do more of that. But I was walking, and I saw this garden beside the legislature building, and with bricks with names engraved on them. And this was after September of 2012, when I was telling you about meeting Mina Hampton in Durham. It was like 2013.
So about a year later, after you've been to this Durham group and had been working with those guys, you walk by this garden.
And I start looking at the names. And I recognize, because some of them were high profile, we had heard them names. I recognize they were names of people that had been murdered in the state. since whenever. I mean, if you had a loved one that had been murdered since 1984, they've been putting bricks in this garden, and it's right beside the legislature building. It's the N.C. Van Memorial Garden. And as soon as I saw it, I started reading about when it started, and I went back to work and made a phone call. Elizabeth Watson, who is currently their executive director right now today, she answered the phone. And I told her who I was, about my son, and I told her that I had been looking for some support, and I did not know that anything in Raleigh existed. And she said, "We do." And she began to tell me what NC Van provides.
Wow.
And one of the things they provide is, every December there's a visual, and it used to be at the Capitol, but it is now behind the right beside the legislature. Every spring in April, there's a week that's called Crime Rights Victims Week. Speakers, people that we know in this, Donnie Harrison came and spoke one time when he was the sheriff. People that we know that are involved in the criminal justice system speak. And so I didn't know it, but it existed. But what they didn't have was a homicide support group.
Oh, they didn't. Okay.
They had
the organization.
They had the organization. They had the events, but they didn't have the group. And she asked me if I felt like that was needed, and if I did, would I be interested in facilitating it?
That's pretty soon after.
In January of 2014, we started the first homicide support group, and I've been doing. I stepped back when Michael died in 2016. I stepped back. I just said, I need to sit here. I don't need to facilitate, and I did that. And a wonderful person came in and did it for.
But for 2 years, you led.
I did it until Mike passed, and then after Mike passed, I still participated, but I didn't facilitate it. But for the last several years now, I've been facilitating the homicide support group, and what they have one a month for opioid support loss. And the reason that happened, you can probably guess, but North Carolina passed that law about death by distribution with fentanyl, and so people that were impacted by that started coming there. That type of death is very, very different from violent homicide, as you know. Anyone would suspect. It's just very, very different. And so those two didn't really do well in the same group.
That's right.
Because you've got folks, that really lost somebody very extremely violently, and they need their own space.
Yep.
And then you've got folks that have lost somebody, whether it was from one pill can kill, accidental, fentanyl showed up in a Xanax, whether it was that, or whether it was an overdose from an active long-term use that they got too much fentanyl.
To be able to be in a group where somebody identifies with your struggle in a more specific way is very.
So they broke off and made the opioid support group, and they said it made sense for me to do both because I lost one child in each area. And so my two worlds literally collided when that happened. And I was like, I would have never dreamed that I would be working for NC Van, doing support groups for something that was because of Michael and something that was because of Stephen.
So walk us through what happened with Michael. So Michael's trying to work through some grief. He what did he do after school?
Well, Michael he was right at 20 when all of this happened, and it was a game changer. It was completely different for him.
Yeah.
He worked several different jobs. He worked at Jasmine's. He did several different things in fast food. He kind of jumped around.
Yeah.
He was trying out different things. He was trying to sort of find his way.
Yeah.
But he did finally get to where he felt like that he was ready to move out. That wasn't very long before his brother died, and get his own place and get a couple of roommates and all of those, just grow up. He said, I just need to, it was his idea, it's time.
Yeah.
It's time for me to do something. And he was really working towards I need to get it together. I need to do more than what I'm doing. And
He felt that pressure.
he felt that.
Storm.
And he went to Wake Tech.
Okay.
And he was taking some classes out there, and he had finished his GED out there. You know, he was doing some things.
He's motivated. Something was pushing him.
Something was pushing him. But he hung out with his brother. I mean, even though they were 4 years apart, they were thick.
Yeah.
They were connected. But a lot of people assume, since I lost both, that Stephen had a substance use disorder, but he did not.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't. And it's important for me to say that, because Michael said, as he shared with me that he had a substance use disorder, that if Stephen was back here, that he would beat his butt, right? I'm just not saying it exactly like what he said, right? But he did say that, because he knew that would have been something that Stephen would not have signed off on with his brother. He would have been really, really concerned about it. He would have really wanted him to do something about it. He might have smoked some pot.
Yeah.
He might have done some things.
Michael went to another level.
Michael went to a whole new level.
Did it happen around the time that the grief, or was it already starting up?
I know exactly. I watched it unfold.
Mm-hmm.
3 months, May 17th, 2012, after his brother died, he was arrested for the first time for a large bag of pot. I know exactly what happened. It was a traffic stop, and it was a large bag of pot. And so obviously he was selling, you know, he had a big bag of pot going. And when he got arrested, it was a felony. And I was like, oh my gosh, right? My son just died. It's 3 months later. My baby now has a felony.
I can't imagine.
And so my world was, we've got to put down the pot. We've got to work on preventing this felony, because he didn't have priors.
Right.
We or it's going to ruin his life.
Right.
It's just going to ruin his life. And that's all I could think about.
Right.
That's where my head was. And I've never really taught. So thank you for this opportunity. I've never really taught this from start to finish before.
Yeah.
May 17th, 2012. I mean, I just remember everything about it. So he got put on probation. And when he got put on probation, and this speaks to where we're going. When he got put on probation, THC stays in your system for like 30 days, right? You know, you can't really go see your probation officer and get tested and just say, oh,
yeah,
you know,
no,
I got a negative drug screen, I'm good. If you're smoking pot, it's going to be there. And he knew that. So all of a sudden, Michael didn't smell like pot anymore. I mean, pot is pretty hard to cover up, you know, and he would come over, and I'm just being transparent. I knew, you know, I knew he was smoking his pot. It was no way he could hide that. But not that he was really trying to.
No.
It's just, it was a thing, right? So he said, I'm not going to be able to do it anymore. I'm going to end up with these charges. I'm going to end up in a lot of trouble. And he had an opportunity. They gave him an opportunity. He had an opportunity to be able, if he could have negative drug screens, if he could do everything, if he could continue to work, if he could do to continue what he wanted to do with school, if he could stay on track, if he could do all of those things, he could get it expunged.
Okay.
So we're going from from a possibility of a felony
to nothing.
Ooh. And I was all in.
I would imagine.
I was all in, right?
Right, let's go.
Let's do this.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah, and I was on him. I mean, I would even say, you can stay with me the night before you have community service, because he had some community service, and I'll cook you breakfast, get you in the car. Anything it takes, right?
Yeah,
whatever you. So I was very focused on that. But here's the thing. It was 3 months after his brother died. He was grieving. He was really, really upset.
Yeah.
People would say, we began to lose Michael when we lost Stephen. That's a direct quote from friends.
We began to lose Michael when we lost
Stephen. That's a quote. I did not make that one up. And it's true. He didn't have the light in his eyes anymore. He missed his bro. He was different. He put posts on Facebook about how we had a candle in the window for him. I could go on all day. It was hard on him. He was 20. He was very young, and he was very shocked. And at one time, I don't think he ever had suicide ideation, but at one time he said, I just don't even know if I want to be in a world like this.
Right.
He was down. He really was. But what he learned, Oxys, Roxys, Oxycontin was on the street.
Yep.
It shifted right after this, which led into his fatality. But at that time, it was they were still around.
Yep.
And what he learned is, forgive me for Steve Michael for saying so much stuff, but what he learned is that he could take a Roxy and his anxiety and his grief and all that. He didn't feel any pain.
That's it.
He took his pain somewhere.
Yeah.
And he wasn't going to take it to THC. So he learned, and that became his new, DOC, whatever you
A
want to say.
replacement for the weed that he can't smoke. Stay away from that felony. But man, he's in so much pain.
Right. But I'm not knowing about all this.
No,
I mean, I'm mom, right? I'm not really knowing what. I just know he doesn't smell like pot anymore, and he's doing his community service, and he's doing.
In a way, you're like happy.
And I'm thinking
he's moving.
I'm thinking we're gonna get through this together.
Yeah.
We're gonna work through our loss, our grief, and Stephen together. But really, what had just happened is a tragedy because he told me we got very close after it came out that he got a substance use disorder. He told me himself, oh my gosh, I would wake up and my legs, he said, the first time I thought I had the flu. And he said it was just a couple of weeks after he got into it. He said it was fast. He said, I would wake up and my legs were hurting and I felt sick to my stomach and I didn't want to do anything. And he said it was so bad. And I went and talked to my friends. I was like, I think I have the flu. I really do.
Dope.
And they were like, you know what? You've been using those Roxys. Take a Roxy and see what happens. And he took a Roxy and he didn't feel sick anymore.
That fast. He's getting dope sick. And now it's just about not feeling sick anymore.
Now it's about not feeling sick and being able to continue to do his community service, not get that.
Just to function.
Not get in trouble. All of that. And so he asked me, he said, can I make an appointment with your primary physician and just talk to them? Because I don't really think he really still understood exactly what door he had just opened.
So he told you that he was struggling. He told you that
he told me that
happening.
Something was happening and that he needed to see the doctor. And so I'm still, I'm pretty naive about it.
Sure, yeah.
I don't know about Purdue. I don't know about what's going on in the world. Right? So he does. He goes to the doctor and he talks to him. And afterwards, I'm on the phone with them. What they say? What are they going to do? Is there something they can give you? Because I'm still thinking that there's maybe a medication that's going to help.
Right.
Yeah, it's just.
Of course. Well, yeah. You don't know.
And then I saw something I had never seen in Mike. He said, there's really nothing that they can do for me. I've got to figure this one out on my own.
Got to white knuckle at himself, huh?
Mm-hmm. And that's where he was. And so, as time went on, John, and I started learning more about what was actually happening because, I'm going to be out there researching.
Oh, yeah. You do your homework again.
Figure out this is not good.
Yeah.
We're in trouble here. Then I start thinking about, if he goes to a 30-day program, he'll be cured. Because I don't know what I know now. And I just think if he can go to a 30-day program and he can get through that, he'll never want to feel that dope sick again. So he'll be home and he'll be good and life will go back to normal. I really believe that.
Of course.
I feel very naive now, but
they sell that. Yeah, they'll sell.
Yeah, and it was expensive. 30-day program is expensive.
Yeah. So did he end up going?
So he did.
Yeah.
He did. He ended up going to Life Center of Galax for 30 days. And I went up there on the weekends and we did meetings together. And even when he came back home, we went to NA meetings. I went to Narnon.
Yeah.
I was all,
of course all in.
I dived right in. And we were talking.
Yeah.
He was telling me. And when it got towards the end, one night we were in his car. It was October 31st, Halloween 2015. And he goes, I need to tell you something that's going on that you don't really understand. And I'm like, what, Mike? And he said, I really, really have a problem. And I think you need to manage my money. I mean, he was like really saying,
Help me.
help me.
I can't stop.
I can't.
Mhm.
I just can't. And then he said something that made me, I think, No Hope, North Carolina, be born after his passing. Is he said, "It's everywhere, Mama. So many people you know, so many people's kids that you know, so many people that have spent the night with me, so many people that are that you would never ever imagine are all struggling with this same thing." And I have to admit, as a mom, hearing that, sitting in his car on October 31st, I thought, well, maybe Mike's just exaggerating because it makes it not seem so bad for what he's doing.
But he was not.
But he was not. And I feel so bad that I didn't understand that because my response would have been different. I was like, Mike, I was just like very unsure of why he would say something like that. But he was telling me the absolute truth. And I learned this, and it didn't take a whole lot longer. So 3 weeks after doing a 30-day program, he was back out. And I was just like, what?
Yeah.
How could we spend all this money, do all of this? I went from being sad to mad. I was all over.
All those emotions.
All over the
Yeah.
place. But he admitted it. He admitted it.
Yeah.
I just can't. And so I said, well, the only thing I know to do is go back. I mean, I don't know what else to do. And so round 2, right? We went back to the same place. We went back to rehab, and I went up there. And it's interesting that I went to Virginia because there's nothing wrong with that particular place. I have still referred people there on the helpline. So it's not about that. It's interesting. It's because I didn't know of any place around here. Now I have.
You've got a list.
I got a list.
Upon list.
I got resources. I know,
Right.
but I didn't. And I was looking for something that would accept his insurance. I had very specific things, and that's all I knew to do at the time. And Florida was going on then. It was kind of messy. There was some stuff going on in Florida rehabs, and they were talking to him on the phone and wanting lots and lots of money. And then I later learned that they weren't really good. There was a lot going on then because families were being sort of taken advantage of because of this problem. And
because they'll pay anything and do anything.
They pay anything.
They're a motivated customer.
Yeah. Heard somebody on Dr. Phil tell Dr. Phil one time that they spent their entire 401k on rehabs. It made me just want to be sick.
But you also go like, yep, I can see why they do it. They'll do whatever.
You love your child.
I'll do whatever.
You love your person. Yeah. You want to do whatever.
401k to save your kid. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And so we get to a place where you're feeling hopeless. He's feeling hopeless.
Yeah.
How did we get to the place where ultimately he lost his battle?
It's right after the last trip to Galax. Went and picked him up. He spent one night with me. He made the decision the last week that he was there that he was going to go to Wilmington, because his biological father lives there, and that he was going to try to rebuild that relationship, which I actually thought was a good idea because I always felt you need the mama and the daddy, right?
Yep.
I always felt it, always wanted it, always supported it. So I thought it was a good idea. Wilmington was number 10 in overdoses in the country. Mom didn't know all that.
No.
I wasn't in the loop. But I was looking at it from a whole different angle. I was looking at Dad's there, and there was something called the Hope House there. And that sounded really good to me. And I wanted him to go to the Hope House. Nothing wrong with the Hope House. Again, there's nothing wrong. But that's where he went. And he got to the Hope House. I took him there. We unpacked his stuff. And he had a room by himself, which is, by the things I've learned, I always recommend somebody in early recovery, always have a roommate, never have a door that can be unlocked. That's what I learned from that. And I'm not trying to judge any place.
No, it's just
that's my story.
100%. Yeah.
And so
lived experience.
It's lived experience. And so he was in Wilmington. He did see his dad. He did see a friend, but he was only there for 3 weeks, John. He was there for 3 weeks. And on the 3rd week, there's a lot of the plug, if you will, for Wilmington that hangs out on Market Street, right? And it's right there.
Yeah.
It's right there. And so there's oftentimes when the temptation is right at your door, they're all there on purpose. Just like in Dreamland when they talked about the black tar and
Absolutely.
pagers
Yeah.
and where they were,
Yeah.
right? They're there on purpose
Yeah.
because they know that
Like a pizza delivery system.
that's it. And the rehab was right there. And they knew everybody was in that particular building. There was early recovery. Mike was
evil.
Mike was 7 weeks sober. 7 weeks sober at this time. So he ends up buying something in Wilmington, going back into the rehab. He's in the rehab, going back into his room, Valentine's Day, 2016, locks the door. He makes a text at 11:57 on the 13th. That's how we know it was Valentine's Day, right? He's texting, the phone tells a lot. And he was using IV, and he was found with a needle still in his arm. It was fentanyl, and he was not a fentanyl. We never even discussed fentanyl.
Yeah.
I know now, my people,
Yeah.
my clients, my patients, they seek fentanyl. I know, but then it was different,
Right.
and we never discussed it. And the only thing I knew about fentanyl is that I had a friend with cancer, and she had fentanyl patch for her pain from her cancer, but I didn't know about it in the way I know about it today. And so he died in a rehab, and I have to say this because it's just so important, all the things that unfold and the impact on families. But I learned that my son died on Facebook. I know that sounds that just can't be true. But somebody called me in the middle of the night and said they're blowing up Facebook about Mike. Where's Mike? Where's Mike? And I said, he's good. He's in the Hope House. He's in Wilmington. He's getting treatment. He's good. And it was one of his close friends. And he goes, look at what's on Facebook. Look at Facebook, and it said what started out as a beautiful day of love has turned into a terrible tragedy. Michael Hoyle passed away today, and he was in the same rehab.
Oh, Freida.
And so I had my husband call Wilmington because I couldn't process it. I couldn't. I just thought it's Facebook crap. I really did. I was just like, no. But it was true. And they hadn't told me because they wanted somebody in our area in Cary to come to our home, but nobody ever came. We only learned through the fact that
Nobody ever came.
Nobody ever came. So gaps. There's a lot of things.
Still.
Yeah. And we've come a long way.
Of course.
I feel like we're doing so much better now. But if there was ever anything to put something in me to make me have a mission, oh my gosh. First it was the homicide, and then it was the overdose, and there was just the whole how hard it was to find rehab, how hard it was to find the right answers, the right people to talk to, the right places to go. And then how difficult it is to be so focused on, I don't want my son to get a felony, right? That was my focus. That was my thing. I was all about that. And then in hindsight, I should have been worried about what he was doing to not get that felony.
But you had no idea, but you are saying because I had no idea, I want to give that information to other people, because knowledge is power, and it just to look back and say, if I knew then what I know now, but you can do that. And that's what's come out of all of this tragedy is you're kind of saying, because I couldn't know then, I want other people to know.
Right.
So that's the thing. You're like, I'll do all the research. I'll put together the list. I think you started with the CADC work that you were doing to kind of like, all right, now I think you retired from the banking world, 33 years.
Yeah, it ended up being 33.
And so hey, 33-year career, I'm going to go off into the sunset, go get a nice beach house. No, she's like, no, I want to make a difference. I want to make an impact from all the garbage that I've been through, the pain I've been through. I want my son's deaths to make a difference and have a purpose. And so your journey begins, I think it started when you started the the homicide groups, when you started getting involved with those folks, and then all of a sudden it's becoming a career. Where did you start on that journey for like where you are today? You're a substance use counselor with a CADC, tons of experience. You've worked with the Drug and Alcohol Council of North Carolina. Where did that career start? Where was the entry point in all of that?
It may sound a little odd to say it this way, but I really feel like it started with Michael's friends coming to me and saying, "Miss Freida, I'm really in trouble." And me starting to recognize that what Michael and I had talked about, he was telling me the absolute truth.
And when he's saying like it's everywhere, all of a sudden you're like, it is everywhere.
His friends, and even some of Stephen's friends, they knew I would not judge them. I had lost both of my biological children, and they knew that I had been through a lot, and they knew I wouldn't judge them, and they knew that I had been around the block a couple of times at that point, and as far as in the substance use disorder world. And so they said, I'm in trouble. What can I do? So I had the heart for it, but I didn't have the education for it. So I started taking folks to Wakebrook and the Harbor in Wilmington for detox.
Okay. Because there's nothing around there. Detox is hard to find.
Yeah, and a lot of folks didn't have, if they had left school and they didn't have a good career going on, they might not have any insurance, but they needed help. And so I could get that at the Harbor. I could get that at Wakebrook, right? At that time. But what I learned and what I got so frustrated about is I would get to I would get to Wakebrook and all the beds were full. And I think that this is why I got my CADC. I really think it all leads into it. All the beds were full. So there were so many gaps. So what do you do with just being real here, an IV user, daily user that has a chance of dying every time that you love? Really love. He used to sit in your house when he was 5. What do you do?
This is one of their friends.
Yeah. Knowing full well it could happen because it happened to you. So, you're not...
A new level of desperation.
Right. New level of desperation. And you get there and you're sitting in Wakebrook in Raleigh and they're like, he really needs to come in, Miss Freida, but we don't have a bed. You can bring him back in the morning. And what are you going to do with that 24 hours?
Right.
You're not even going to be able to sleep, right? So then I learned that the Harbor would do it with me over the phone. And I could actually leave Wakebrook, even though, as long as they had an address. And I don't know, this is kind of going around, but
I love it, man.
I didn't care.
No.
If I could give them a Wilmington address. And so I knew about Launchpad in Wilmington. That was a recovery place. I was learning. And so I could give the Launchpad address and I could take them to the Harbor and I could get them in there. And then I didn't have to worry about losing them in that 24 hours. And I'm really talking about a lot of people.
It's unreal.
I was shocked at how many people started talking to me.
Like people are coming out of the woodwork. You're starting to do this stuff.
Yeah.
You're educating yourself. I want to move all the way to kind of where we're at today and some of the things that have happened in our world in Recovery Alive. Tisha Temple said that you were taking on her job. She was working for the Alcohol and Drug Council, and she was training you to take her position because she was going to be working for Recovery Alive, and she was going to open up a Recovery Alive home. And she was training you. Yeah, one. She only wanted to do one of these things. And she's training you to take that on, and she gets a phone call. Do you remember that?
Yes.
You remember everything.
Yeah,
you got a steel trap. What happened? What was going on?
Well, she was so excited she couldn't even hardly sit still anymore.
That's
she
about
was
right.
Over the moon. And I was so excited for her. And I felt very, very honored because by that point I had gone to Wake Tech to do the CADC thing. And I'd done the Healing Transitions, my internship.
What a great organization, Healing Transitions.
Yes, they are. I still go every Monday night. I love us. I love being there. But here's Tisha getting ready to do her new chapter, which is amazing. I love what you guys have done. I just truly do. I have loved Tisha Temple since the day I met her. I mean, how can you not?
Yeah.
Right. And Casey, both of them.
Oh, he's all right.
I just love them. And I've never asked them to do anything for me when they haven't said yes.
Yeah.
And I've asked them to do some stuff. So anyway, we're sitting there. She's so excited. I need 6,000 hours.
Right.
And at retirement age, that's 3 years of full-time work
Right.
just to get a CADC.
Just get a
Just
CADC.
get a CADC. I mean, my business degree is not going to do anything
Right.
for this world. That's days gone by. So she is offering me something where I can do some work from home, right? I can be on the phone. I can learn a lot about our resources. I can hear folks say, "Yeah, I've struggled with ADHD." I can relate, right?
Yeah.
I can relate, and she's given me that
That's
opportunity
beautiful.
at retirement age.
Yeah.
And so she's going off to do her new home, excited as she can be, and I'm getting the opportunity to go into ADCNC and work on the recovery helpline, and it was just a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it was.
I just felt like just our relationship and how we met and how things were unfolding was like perfect.
Worlds converging. Yeah. Beautiful.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
So she's since been really involved with getting, I think we're at 12 Recovery Live homes around the country. You've been a huge part of just the early planning stages. There's a picture of you in some of that early planning for those Recovery Live homes. The very first Recovery Live home, you put a room in there, a no hope room.
Yes.
And for some reason, the whole room is decorated out in purple.
Yeah.
At Growing Grace, and we're just so grateful for that, and all the support that you've given to Recovery Live. The event that I get to be a part of that is just so moving. The billboards are incredible for No Hope. The faces of all those who've been lost to overdose, and then to go to the overdose awareness event in August. Every year, it's just been so powerful as they read those names one by one. Some moms reading those names of their own children, and how many there are, but that they're showing up, and all of these people who've lost so much, like yourself, who's saying, I want to give back. How do I help? We do Narcan trainings, and in the church, early on when I started into kind of learning about just the pandemic of the overdose, it's unreal. It was like 110,000 people a year were dying at that time. And I remember the church was, for some reason, just because the church can be a little tricky at times, they were like going, do we really want to give people Narcan? I mean, if they really want to die, and these are drug addicts. And I was just shocked. It was just shocking to me. And so I remember hearing somebody say, we're going to keep them alive until they want to live. We're going to keep them alive. Isn't that good? And I've done lots of funerals for these kids, and the kids come to the funerals.
Yes. Yes.
And they're friends, and they're going like, what do I do? They're looking for that kind of hope.
Yeah.
And that you give that to them. It's
Thank
just
you.
incredible. It's you're just so inspiring what you do.
I appreciate it so much, John. Thank you. Thank you.
You're an inspiration, and living on Incline is about just going like, what do I do to take my tragedy and take it to a place where I can give back. And you exemplify that and personify it. So we love you. We're so grateful that you came on here. Sorry, I got a little emotional. It's just incredible to see what you've done, and you continue to do. And we're so blessed to have you.
Thank you so much. It's just been such an honor. Thank you for coming to International Overdose Awareness Day and speaking, and all that you do for Recovery Alive and so many people in your homes and your work. It's tremendous. So appreciated.
We'll keep doing it together.
Yes.
This is Living on Incline. Hit subscribe. Check out. It is KNOWHopeNC.com.
Yes, and we should say KNOW.
KNOW. It ain't no hope. It's no hope.
It's play on
NC.
Yes.
And support Freida and all the work that she's doing, and Living on Incline, Recovery Live. We are so grateful for you. Until we see you guys next time, thank you so much for hanging out.
Hey, thanks again for joining us on Living on Incline, sponsored by Recovery Live. Would you do us a favor and just hit that subscribe button, share with your friends? And again, we want to explore our full God-given potential and see what we are capable of. So again, hit that subscribe button, and thank you so much for joining us on Living on Incline.